The quiet power of Captain Elijah Brooks. The night was alive in Manhattan, shimmering with golden streetlights and the electric buzz of wealth and ambition. L Rouge, one of the city's most prestigious restaurants, was glowing from the inside out. Crystal chandeliers glistened above linen-draped tables, soft piano music poured through hidden speakers, and waiters moved like dancers in a ballet of elegance and exclusivity. It was the kind of place where New York's elite came not only to dine, but to be seen. A sleek black SUV pulled up to the curb, its polished surface reflecting the velvet sky. Out stepped Elijah Brooks, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a sharp navy suit that hugged his muscular frame with quiet precision. His shoes were polished, his movements confident, and yet he walked with the calm of a man who did not need to announce himself. To the world, he was simply another customer. But behind the clean-cut appearance and composed demeanor was Captain Elijah Brooks, a senior officer in the FBI, one of the most respected agents in the Bureau, and a man who had spent his entire life navigating power, prejudice, and the truth. Tonight, though, he wasn't here to make arrests or lead investigations. He wasn't here to brief government officials or supervise high-level operations. Tonight, Elijah just wanted a quiet meal, a glass of good wine, a steak, a moment to breathe after a week of relentless pressure. He stepped inside the restaurant, the hush of the heavy doors falling behind him like a curtain closing on the outside world. As he approached the reception desk, the maitre d', a middle-aged man in a burgundy suit, glanced up. His face stiffened. His eyes narrowed. "Good evening," Elijah said smoothly. "I have a reservation." "Brooks, 8 o'clock." The maitre d' paused. "I'm sorry, sir," he said tightly. "We're fully booked tonight." Elijah arched a brow. He looked past the host and easily spotted 3 empty tables by the windows. His voice remained calm, but a shade cooler. "That's strange. I see plenty of open tables." The maitre d' shifted uncomfortably, eyes flicking toward a couple seated nearby. He cleared his throat. "They may be reserved, sir. Perhaps you'd like to try another night." Elijah didn't argue. He simply reached into his inner jacket pocket and pulled out a card thick, black, embossed in silver. The maitre d's eyes widened as he read it. L Rouge, patron status tier 1 VIP. The kind of card not issued, but granted usually to the few who donated large sums to the restaurant's wine cellar or helped fund its annual charity galas. "I'll take a table by the window," Elijah said. The host hesitated. Then, like flipping a switch, his tone changed. "Of course, Mr. Brooks. Right this way." He led Elijah to a table with a view of the city skyline. As Elijah sat, he took in the atmosphere. Waiters buzzed from table to table, laughing with patrons, pouring wine, recommending entrees. But when they passed his table, their energy dimmed. They grew colder, quieter, distant. A white couple at the next table, the man wearing a Rolex the size of a golf ball. The woman in an emerald silk dress glanced at Elijah. The husband leaned in and whispered something. The wife giggled and gave Elijah another quick look. Elijah ignored them. He waited for service. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Other patrons who had arrived after him were being served drinks, bread, appetizers. He raised a hand, signaling a waiter. None came. Finally, a young waitress in a tight bun and an expression of permanent annoyance approached. "What can I get you?" she asked. "No esmite." No warmth. "I'll take a glass of Cabernet," Elijah said. "And the menu, please." She nodded curtly and walked away without another word. He exhaled slowly. He had seen this before, lived it, but that didn't make it easier. At the next table, the white couple continued whispering, their tone shifting from amusement to discomfort. "He's just sitting there, not talking to anyone," the woman muttered. "Could be a gang member," her husband replied. She clutched her purse tighter. "Should we tell someone?" A few moments later, the husband stood and walked to the maitre d'. They whispered. The maitre d' nodded. Then, with a practiced hand, he picked up his phone and dialed. "Yes, 911, he said, voice lowered but still audible to Elijah. "We have a situation. A suspicious man. Black male. Could be armed. Guests feel unsafe." Outside, a patrol car appeared within minutes. Lights flashing. Sirens muted. Officer Daniel Mercer, white, mid-40s, with a reputation for intimidation rather than justice, stepped out. He didn't ask questions, didn't gather facts. He walked straight into the restaurant. He saw Elijah and stormed toward his table. "What the hell do you think you're doing here?" Mercer barked, loud enough for every diner to hear. Elijah looked up, expression unreadable. "Excuse me." "You heard me," Mercer growled. "What are you doing here? A black guy, sitting alone in a place like this? Don't screw with me." Elijah slowly placed his hands on the table, palms up. "I'm having dinner." Mercer wasn't satisfied. He stepped closer and unholstered his weapon, pointing it directly at Elijah's chest. The entire restaurant went still. "I said get out," Mercer snapped. "You've got 3 seconds." Elijah didn't flinch. He reached into his pocket slowly, deliberately, and pulled out his phone. Then, calmly, he began to dial. Mercer chuckled. "Gonna call your lawyer?" "Your mommy." Elijah didn't respond. He put the phone on speaker. "Director Reynolds," he said. "This is Captain Elijah Brooks, FBI. I'm currently being held at gunpoint by a local police officer at L Rouge. No provocation. No reason." Silence followed. Then a voice came over the speaker, firm, authoritative, unmistakable. "Captain Brooks, are you safe?" Mercer's face went pale. Elijah's voice was steel. "I'm not. Officer Daniel Mercer has a weapon drawn. I've done nothing wrong." Gasps rippled through the restaurant. The couple who had whispered accusations now stared in horror. The maitre d' clutched the counter like it might save him from collapse. Waiters froze. Glasses shook in trembling hands. Mercer's gun hand faltered. "You're your FBI?" Elijah didn't answer. He just turned his phone toward Mercer so he could hear every word of what was about to unfold. Within minutes, another officer arrived. Lieutenant Charles Monroe, Mercer's commanding officer, stepped in with urgency, eyes wide. "Captain Brooks," he said, "I'm so sorry. We'll handle this immediately." Mercer turned to Monroe, pleading, "Charles." But Monroe raised his hand and slapped Mercer hard across the face. "You just pointed a gun at an FBI captain in a restaurant," Monroe roared. "You are done." Mercer stumbled backward. "Lieutenant, he didn't look like." "Oh, so if he wasn't FBI, this would be fine?" Monroe snarled. "That your logic?" Mercer's mouth opened and closed. He had no answer. Monroe turned to Elijah. "Captain, with your permission, I'm ordering his arrest. Abuse of power. Racial discrimination. Assault." Elijah nodded once. Monroe clicked his radio. "Dispatch, send internal affairs. Immediate detainment. Officer Mercer is under arrest." The cuffs went on with satisfying clicks. Cameras flashed. Reporters had arrived, tipped off by someone who recognized the gravity of the situation. "Is it true?" one shouted. "Did a cop just point a gun at an FBI officer because of race?" Elijah's voice was low, but it carried. "Yes. And if I weren't who I am, I might not have walked out." The headlines spread like wildfire. "White cop pulls gun on black FBI captain in Manhattan restaurant. Justice served in real time. Mercer under federal investigation for racial misconduct." That night, Officer Daniel Mercer was taken into custody. His face, once smug and unchallenged, became a symbol of arrogance humbled. The restaurant that had backed the false accusations tried to apologize. Elijah declined, quietly, firmly. Over the next days, public outrage exploded. Hashtags trended. Marches formed. People demanded reform. If the FBI isn't safe, who is? By the end of the month, Mercer had been formally charged. His trial was swift. Video evidence, testimony, and the sheer gravity of the overreach led to a conviction. 5 years in federal prison. L Rouge closed for restructuring, but no one returned. Elijah Brooks returned to work. He didn't grant interviews, didn't accept invitations to lead protests or join political causes. But he did one thing. He launched an internal task force at the FBI, one designed to investigate misconduct in law enforcement across the country. It was quiet, strategic, but it was real. As for Mercer, he spent his prison days in isolation, targeted not by the system he once abused, but by the very people he once hunted. He faded from memory, just another lesson in unchecked power gone too far. But Elijah Brooks endured, because dignity doesn't need noise to make a statement. Sometimes, all it takes is one man calm, unwavering, seated in the quiet heart of a storm to change everything.